Number 10. The smog that nearly melted England. Imagine waking up and seeing nothing. Not the street, not your neighbor, not your own foot. Just a dense, yellowish fog, smelling of burnt coal and death. That's how London woke up in December 1952. An ordinary day turned into a real-time horror movie. The fog was so thick that buses were guided by people walking ahead with flashlights. Drivers crashed, pedestrians disappeared, and horses collapsed on the sidewalks, unable to understand what was happening. The air was so saturated with industrial smoke that Londoners' lungs began to collapse from within. In less than a week, more than 12,000 people suffocated to death, and many more were blinded or left covered in sticky soot. Officials, elegant as ever, said it was just typical winter weather. Indeed, the weather now tasted of sulfur and a hint of apocalypse. When the sun finally returned, London looked like a post-bomb city. And the most ironic thing? The disaster only ended because we ran out of coal. The planet survived due to a lack of supplies. Number 9. The computer that almost started World War III. It all started with a beep. A simple beep, coming from a Soviet screen in 1983. The nuclear warning system displayed 5 American missiles on the way, and there sat Lieutenant Stanislav Petrov, sweating and staring at the button that, if pressed, would return the favor with enough warheads to fry the entire planet. The manual was clear: respond immediately, but Petrov hesitated. 5 missiles, it seemed like an attack by someone testing their luck, not starting a war. As the radar flashed red, the room became a theater of contained panic. Screams, reports, and the sound of the clock ticking as if counting down Earth's last seconds. Petrov took a deep breath, crossed his arms, and decided to do nothing, literally nothing. He waited. And the impossible happened. The missiles disappeared from the radar. No attack, no boom, just the sun's reflection confusing a nervous satellite. The planet kept spinning, and the hero of the day was a man who simply ignored a computer. Irony of ironies, humanity survived because someone decided not to follow instructions. Number 8. The explosion that divided Siberia at 7 in the morning on June 30th, 1908. The Siberian sky decided to have a nervous breakdown. A blue flash pierced the clouds, and seconds later, an explosion shook the earth as if someone had kicked the planet. Trees fell in perfect circles, the air caught fire, and a cloud of heat swept over everything within a radius of 2,000 square kilometers. The noise was heard 1,000 kilometers away, and people thought the world had ended. But no, it was just Tunguska, an event so powerful it was equivalent to 1,000 Hiroshima bombs. Curiously, no one officially died because the location was so remote that even bears needed GPS to find their way. Decades later, scientists investigated and nothing. No crater, no meteor, just a desert of charred trees pointing toward the center of the explosion, as if the forest had stopped to applaud the chaos. What exploded? No one knows. Meteor, comet, alien experiment, maybe the universe just sneezed. And the most ironic thing, the planet was saved because no one lives where nothing happens. Literally, humanity survived for lack of neighbors. Number 7. The Cuban Missile Crisis. For 13 days in 1962, the planet became a nuclear pressure cooker. The United States and the Soviet Union stared each other down, fingers on the trigger, like two teenagers fighting to see who would blink first. The reason? Aerial photos revealed that the USSR was installing nuclear missiles in Cuba just 150 kilometers from Florida. Kennedy slammed his fist on the table, Khrushchev sent a message in diplomatic caps lock, and the world held its breath. American ships surrounded the island, bombers hovered overhead, and radios broadcast speeches with the enthusiasm of those who know they could crumble to dust at any second. One miscalculation, one wrong button, and goodbye, civilization. But the real danger wasn't at the controls, it was at the bottom of the sea. A Soviet submarine, isolated and without communication, thought war had already begun and prepared to launch a nuclear torpedo. That's when a man named Vasily Arkhipov said, "Better not." A simple no that prevented the apocalypse. No superhero movie tops that. The entire planet survived thanks to the guy who decided to remain calm in the midst of Armageddon. And to think the fate of the world depended on a tired Russian and a button that had gone unused. Number 6. The disease that almost wiped out humanity. No zombies or radioactive mutations. The real apocalypse arrived in 1918. Invisible and feverish, Spanish flu appeared discreetly, but within months it was killing people faster than any war. The virus was so aggressive that healthy young people, the pride of humanity, felt like dominoes. Cities became traffic-filled cemeteries. Doctors improvised masks with sheets. Coffins were scarce, and church bells fell silent because their ringing sounded like a countdown. The world, fresh from World War I, witnessed something even more cruel. The enemy was now the air. The streets emptied, fear became routine, and people began to distrust even their own breathing. In some places, bodies were stacked like cordwood, waiting for graves that never filled. And as with every good human tragedy, the ending was pure chance. The virus, tired of so much success, began to weaken on its own. With no cure, no vaccine, it just gave up. Humanity survived not because of intelligence, but because the virus lost interest. Basically, we won because the enemy got bored. Number 5. The laboratory black hole. In 2008, the entire planet decided to trust its existence to a gigantic 27-kilometer metal tube buried underground in Switzerland. Large Hadron Collider would be the greatest experiment in history, recreating the conditions of the Big Bang. Wonderful. Except for one small detail, there was a chance, however slim, that he could create a black hole and swallow everything. Yes, the Earth could disappear before the Good Morning newscast even ended. As scientists adjusted the cables, internet forums went wild. "We're playing God," some shouted. "It's over, the world is going to disappear," said others. The physicists calmly assured them it was impossible. But no one could answer the essential question, what if? When the machine was turned on, there was a collective silence. The planet waited for the collapse. Nothing happened. No vortex, no planets being sucked in, just particles colliding peacefully. The world breathed a sigh of relief, but deep down, the nagging question remains, what if the experiment failed, and Earth was already swallowed and we've just been living inside the black hole ever since? Number for the solar storm that nearly fried the internet. In July 2012, the sun decided to sneeze big time. A coronal mass ejection, essentially a planet-sized spit of plasma spewed straight toward Earth. Had it arrived 2 days earlier, we have no internet, no power, no GPS, and worst of all, no memes. Humanity would have returned to the 19th century overnight. And the reason would literally be, there was too much sun. Scientists at NASA's Solar Observatory watched in suppressed panic, hoping the fireball would barely pass by. And it did. For a mere 48 hours, the planet escaped becoming a floating, burnt-out lantern. The explosion was so intense it would have fried transformers, knocked out satellites, and caused blackouts that would have lasted years. Imagine explaining that to people. Sorry, the sun turned off the Wi-Fi. The best part? Almost no one knew at the time. While the world continued posting pictures of kittens, the sun almost clicked format planet. Luckily, the universe got the timing wrong and we're still here, complaining about the heat with our cell phones in our hands. Number 3. The nuclear test that nearly ignited the atmosphere. Imagine being so intelligent that you create something capable of wiping out the planet itself. In 1945, a group of scientists led by Oppenheimer were preparing the first atomic bomb test, the Trinity test bit. Before the explosion, someone raised an uncomfortable question. What if the detonation ignites the atmosphere and destroys everything? The official answer was a cheerful unlikely. And there they were, ready to press the button anyway. In the New Mexico desert, the sky turned white, the ground shook, and the air seemed to melt. The light was so bright it blinded cows miles away. Witnesses said it looked like the rising of two suns, one of them clearly in a bad mood. For a few seconds, no one knew if the planet still existed. until the wind returned and the world, by pure luck, remained intact. Oppenheimer, poetic as ever, quoted the Bhagavad Gita, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." And everyone pretended to think it was beautiful, but deep down they were just thinking, "Whew, the atmosphere is still there." Science proved its power, and the universe, kindly, decided not to charge the bill that day. Number 2. The day AI almost destroyed everything. It was 3 a.m. on a random day in 1980, and an alarm started screaming inside the command center of NORAD, the United States nuclear defense system. The screen flashed red, massive Soviet strike, thousands of missiles were on their way, and the protocol was simple: hit back with everything. Generals woke up, planes were scrambled, and the planet was seconds away from becoming a radioactive dust experiment. But something seemed off. The radars showed the missiles, but no one could track the launch. No heat signal, no real echo. After minutes that felt like centuries, someone decided to check the system. And the culprit was a chipper 46-cent microcomponent that failed and invented war out of thin air. Yes, we nearly entered the apocalypse because of a manufacturing error. The alarm was turned off, the warheads were returned to the closet, and the world breathed a sigh of relief, albeit somewhat awkwardly. The system, of course, was updated, that is, patched with duct tape and hope. In the end, humanity discovered that the greatest danger wasn't the Soviet Union, it was cheap hardware. Number 1. The planet that was almost deleted before it was born. Before there was a sea, a tree, or a billet, Earth barely existed. About 4.5 billion years ago, the solar system was a cosmic battlefield, with newly formed planets slamming into each other like flaming billiard balls. Then a Mars-sized body, Calathea, decided to crash into our baby planet. The impact was so brutal that it vaporized much of the crust and scattered incandescent chunks into space. Within seconds, Earth was a soup of floating magma, a swirling blur of its own burial. But chaos, as always, had a sense of style. The debris came together and formed something new. The Moonise, the satellite that today inspires poets, werewolves, and tides, was born from an accident worthy of a cosmic disaster. The collision, ironically, stabilized the planet and allowed life to emerge later. In short, the world ended before it even began, and in the process, you gained a brilliant companion. Perhaps the universe was just beta testing, and we humans are the bug that worked in the prototype of destruction.